Bret Baier joins me. He will be hosting the first Republican debate on Fox News on August 23rd, along with Shannon Bream. Good morning, Bret. Good to talk to you. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Hugh. Me and Martha McCallum.
Martha McCallum. I'm sorry, I said Shannon. Martha McCallum. It's going to be, well, let's come back to the debate. I want to talk first about Kabul. I've just finished reading this book, Kabul, by Jerry Dunleavy and James Hassan. And it is very unfortunate that the indictment of Donald Trump in Georgia came down on the second anniversary, eve of the second anniversary of the fall of Kabul. I don't know if there's any time to cover it now, but my God, this book is disturbing. Have you had a chance to read it yet?
I've read part of it. I've had a buddy of mine who I trust go through it and said that there are really some explosive things in there that advanced the ball to what we already knew was a really horrible situation that was made more horrible by the actions on the ground and at the White House.
I will just read one line from page 126. Struggling to describe their experiences, several soldiers and Marines simply told us that Kabul in August 2021 had been far worse than words can capture. The indictment last night will knock the anniversary completely off of the news. And I don't blame people for doing that. It's the big news, and we're in the news business. But it's very unfortunate. Bret, what will you do about that dilemma tonight on Special Report?
Well, I think we'll cover it no matter what. I mean, you can't take an hour of news time. I guess you could, but it's not breaking as of tonight. Everybody knows what's going on by all-day coverage of the indictment of former President Trump and 18 others by the Georgia grand jury. There'll definitely be some analysis and some political look at all of that and what the impact is. But we're now on our fourth indictment. I mean, it feels like, it's Tuesday, so there's another indictment. But so I do think that other news events, including that anniversary and the new elements there. I mean, I thought that the striking thing was that how much they relied on the Taliban for security around the airport. And we're told, don't do that, and yet did, and, led to what Abby gave.
Yeah, I just don't have a lead because giving up Bagram, the idea that the Haqqanis are different from the Taliban, are different from ISIS-K, it's all there. And the fact that the State Department just lied to us, just straight up lied to us about the number of Americans in Afghanistan again and again and again in the SIV. I'll come back to that. Bret, I want to talk about the indictment for a moment. You've got the murderer's row of analysts. Turley and McCarthy are Gehrig and Ruth of the trusted legal analysts. Are you going to have them on tonight?
Yes.
Ruth Marcus
and,
for the...
I think we'll have others, but I think that they'll be our stalwarts as they have been. And they have, in a number of these cases, pointed out the serious lacking of the legal strategy when they look at some of this. And I assume, I haven't heard them on this particular indictment, but we'll have them on tonight.
Well, Ruth Marcus, who's a friend and a colleague at the Post and a very fine lawyer, but a liberal, an old school liberal, she is now growing so concerned that her lead editorial today in the Washington Post is, my goodness, this is unusual. We don't do this in the United States. Piling on is a problem. Have you sensed that from any other liberal? Or do they just want more? Like the cheering section at my old network, I couldn't turn on MSNBC last night because I was watching a cheerleading section, and they don't do any analysis.
And it's continued this morning. I mean, it really has. I agree with you. I think that there are more and more people who say, listen, we get it. There may be serious things here, but to have all the charges add up to more than 1,000 years in prison for a current candidate for the United States for the White House who happens to be a former president is really something. And then in the prism of when Republicans talk about it, of two tiers of justice and what they don't see on the Hunter Biden investigation and what they don't see in the inquisitiveness or lack thereof in the media about that, it's frustrating. And so then you get all the conspiracy theories. Then you get, maybe this is all designed to get Trump, the GOP really sympathetic to Trump. He gets the nomination and then loses horribly to Biden. It's all out there.
Yeah, it is. And I think just people act out of their self-interest, prosecutors and lawyers everywhere. Bret, I do not envy you, although I envy you. I mean, you get to do the first debate with Martha McCallum, but at the same time, I don't envy you this task, because the best thing anyone can hope is that you're not a story on the day afterwards. But I really don't know what you're going to do. Have you begun to sit down with Martha and your producers and figure out what you're going to do on August 23rd?
Oh yeah, we've had a number of meetings really for the past month, but we didn't know, still don't really know exactly who's going to be on that stage. The going bet is that the former president is probably not going to be there, but he's going to be there. He's a part of this debate in this primary, and some of these things obviously will include the former president's sound bites or feelings, since he's the prohibitive favorite in every poll.
Yeah, I think it is in his best interest to appear, because I don't know that he's going to have the chance to appear, Bret. You got 4 different judicial proceedings. It becomes increasingly complex to say anything in the context of a trial, as I'm sure Andy and Jonathan Turley will say to you. But if he doesn't show up on the 23rd, I don't know when he can come. I think they'll beat the living daylights out of him as well, don't you?
Well, yes, and I do think that these indictments in the GOP provide a unique opportunity for him to turn to the other people on the stage and say, "Are you with me?" And most of them will say yes. I mean, Chris Christie won't, but most of them will say yes. The 2-tiered system of justice. The debate is the 23rd. He's scheduled to turn himself in Georgia on the 25th by noon.
But that was a little bit of drama last night. Of all these different issues, Bret, China is in the background. I spent 45 minutes yesterday with Vivek Ramaswamy talking only about China. I don't know how these debates are going to figure out, but it seems to me that the prosecutions have taken us off the course of actually talking about the future, and we're all focused on the past. But I don't know what you do about that.
Yeah, I mean, you do it all. Ideally, there's not enough time with 8 or 7 candidates on the stage to really dig in, but you can get to some substantive issues. You're going to have to touch on what's happening. Obviously, it's one of the buckets, but there are plenty of others, including China, including foreign policy writ large, including the economy, including the tough issue of abortion for the GOP. I think that there is plenty of time. I do love the prospect of having fewer candidates and more conversation. I envision Hugh in your model of being a non-factor and just steering. I would love to get candidates to interact with each other within the system of guidelines that we set up.
Yeah, and I want to close with this. I think Ronna and David and their colleagues are doing a fine job. I would, however, put out the entire schedule so that people like you and people like me know what's coming and know how many opportunities at bat you're going to have, so that you can divide up your time. That would be of advantage to everyone. You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think the problem is they haven't lined everything up as of yet. I think they have a notion, but I don't think it's locked in stone, and they're releasing as it goes. But I agree with you. I mean, if you're a candidate, you want to kind of get your head around where you're going, how you're doing, how you're going to prepare. So we'll see what number one brings, and we're looking forward to a good night. 2 hours, you can get around the horn with 7 people.
August 23rd, Martha MacCallum and Bret Baier host the Republicans in Milwaukee, the first presidential debate of the 2020 cycle. And it's going to be very, very 2024 cycle. Oh my gosh, it's all blending together, Bret Baier. It's all blending together. Thank you, Bret. Follow him on the site, formerly known as Twitter, at Bret Baier. I don't think the Republicans could have picked a better opening moderator, not named Hugh. And he does have 4 letters in his first name, so that's close enough for me.